Hello and welcome to this week's Worship at Home. As you know, my name is Samantha and I'm one of the Methodist ministers here in Northampton. Alleluia, Christ is risen. He is risen indeed. Alleluia. I have a vivid memory of sitting on the sofa on the 23rd of March 2020. Hearing the announcement that the moment had come for us all to play our part in stopping the spread of COVID-19 by staying at home. Like many, I felt shocked and unsure what would come next. And yet, I also knew that these restrictions would be temporary and that at some point we would once again step outside our homes. 7 days later, the post arrived. And among the letters was one I'd been expecting and praying about. Yet I was suddenly really nervous to open it. The letter was the results of the Ministerial Candidate Selection Committee. To my joy, I was recommended for pre-ordination training for presbyterial ministry. And as you can say, the rest is history. But I remember sitting down, knowing that my life was about to change, and a whirlwind of emotions washed over me. And looking back, I can smile, but at the time it was such a mixture of joy and fear as I prepared to step into something that I knew would be life-changing and was overwhelming at the time. I often reflect onto these emotions, especially when I think about Mary Magdalene and Mary going to the tomb on this Easter morning to look at the tomb where Jesus had been laid the eve of the Sabbath. Our Gospel reading for this Easter Sunday is Matthew 28, verses 1 to 10. It's a very dramatic account of what happened when they arrived at the tomb. But let's just pause for a moment and remember the week that these women had lived through. Jesus had entered Jerusalem with shouts of Hosanna. And then Jesus gathered his followers for that intimate Last Supper. Then they had the fear because Jesus was arrested, tried, beaten, and condemned to death on the cross. Then they had watched Jesus carry this heavy cross, watched Jesus being nailed to the cross. These two women, along with his disciples and so many others, had placed all their hope in Jesus. And now he was dead, sealed in this tomb. And then everything changes. Matthew speaks of an earthquake, an angel descending, the guards frozen in fear, and then the angel saying these words, "Do not be afraid." The women witnessed God at work beyond anything they could have imagined. The God who had seemed silent on Good Friday revealed that even the worst the world could do, even death itself, could not defeat divine love. Jesus had risen. Then we hear the beautiful line in verse 8. So the women hurried away from the tomb, afraid yet filled with joy. What an honest expression of faith. Fear and joy intertwined. As they ran to share the news, they encountered Jesus himself. He quietened their fear, confirmed the angel's message, and sent them out to proclaim the good news. This encounter with the risen Christ changed everything for them. Their hope was restored, their purpose renewed. The adventure of sharing God's love was ahead of them, a task that would stretch them, challenge them, and inspire them as it does for us. It began with that moment of meeting the risen Jesus and hearing him say, "Do not be afraid." This Easter Sunday, we stand with those women at the empty tomb. Perhaps we are carrying a mix of fear and joy, uncertainty and hope. And yet the risen Christ still meets us, still calls us by name, and still sends us out. We live in a world that's marked by uncertainty, division and longing. And this message of Jesus' resurrection remains as powerful for us today as it did for the two Marys. Jesus meets us not in our perfection, but in our humanity, offering us peace where we have fear and hope where there is doubt. The empty tomb invites us to trust that God is always at work, even when we cannot see the whole picture. And just like these women, we are invited to step forward in faith, carrying the good news into the lives of those around us and ourselves who need it the most. So the question for each of us today is this: how might Jesus be calling us to share the good news with those around us? Happy Easter. Amen.